Big data is the latest hot topic in IT. But what do we mean when we say big data, and what effect can big data solutions have on business? In this session, we'll try to define big data and talk about some of the many use cases. Perhaps it's instructive first of all to look at the kinds of data that are being generated now. Although organisations are good at managing data which is well structured and easily understood, there's still a vast amount of data that's thrown away. It's archived, never to be seen again. This is a shame because there is potential value in this data if it were analysed. It's the potential in the data that really defines big data. We know that there are large data sets that if we could hold and persist them may produce actionable insight. So big data is really all about tapping into diverse data sets, finding and monetizing unknown relationships and driving business decisions as a result. The key difference between this and the data sets we have looked at so far is that with this data, we have not necessarily been through the effort of persisting it to a relational structure. Perhaps it's instructive here to go back to first principles and understand what we want to do with the data in the organization. The fundamental challenge is to measure and then acquire the data we need. We then need to think about organizing it in such a way that it can be analyzed. The key step, though, is to use this analysis as the basis for some kind of decision. This last step is critical. Without this, there is little point in any IM architecture. Big data takes this standard process and simply delays the time we need to have made a decision about the organization for analysis. We can do some limited analysis by a small community without having to necessarily organize the data in an EDW. Perhaps some examples are instructive. In retail, we're used to the idea of understanding customer buying behaviors in order to take decisions on financial range and assortment planning, and the next best activity for the individual customer. In essence, we estimate what the customer will do next based on their previous buying history. But what if we could understand more of future customer behavior by understanding more about sentiment? Perhaps one source of data would be what they searched on when they visited the website. This data might give us details of what they might be interested in, and perhaps a promotion on this item might lead them to make a purchase. Even more interestingly, access to social network data might allow us to understand what they are thinking, their likes, their dislikes, and so on. And this may give us both general and very specific clues as to the next best activity for the customer. Similarly, in telco and other organizations, we may be looking to build up a pattern of influence and contact. Can we understand, based on these types of data, who is friends with whom? Who is likely to be influenced by someone else? And how might a chain of events be set in motion? The point about big data is that this is often data that we are throwing away. In many utility companies, heavy industries, and even sports, huge numbers of sensors are deployed, often creating thousands of values per second. Of course, most of the time we're looking for a value that is outside of tolerance and don't bother to persist the data beyond that. But it may be that in combination, sets of changes to these values mean that some kind of failure or indeed opportunity can be predicted. Only by persisting the data and analysing it over time will we be able to tell. Another interesting case is capital markets, where hundreds of scenarios and simulations are run for each and every trade. The bulk of the intermediary steps in the calculation are thrown away. But it could be that if we could hold them, there would be huge value in understanding patterns over history, perhaps for more detailed scenario planning. So big data represents an opportunity to many industries, but the quandary is that we'll want to somehow employ the associated technologies as part of our overall information management strategy. In the next session, we'll discuss how we can achieve exactly that.